Welcome, welcome. It is I, Sigma, your host of The Sigma Show. And once again, we have a bunch of news from the week that we are going to discuss in great detail with great insight, because that's the kind of people we are. Before I get into who's joining me today, real quick, we're going to go over our actual topics. First up, Activision is clashing with an indie developer over the name Warzone. Funny, interesting story, at least I feel. Probably won't be a super long conversation, but I just wanted to bring it up. Second, to pretty much nobody's surprise, Amazon has canceled yet another big game. This rumored Lord of the Rings MMORPG, which was coming, has been in development, I think, since like 2018 or something like that. 2019, I think, perhaps. But either way, it's dead. We'll talk about that.
He's selling himself. Either way, dead. Next.
And our last two posts are somewhat related, but two very different situations. First of which is the situation where a supposed educator used a fake complaint about a game, Path of Exile, where they were banned for having to use certain cheats, quote unquote cheats, as a disabled person, and was seeking legal advice on the matter. It blew up into this big thing, only to be revealed to be a hoax from a teacher who wanted to show how quickly misinformation can spread on the internet. So we'll go into more detail as to what the hell that was about and what the ramifications of such behavior look like. But our final story is this indie or student game, rather, that hit my radar. That it's kind of similar to the last week's discussion that we had about 6 Days in Fallujah. It's a game where the main character is a black man driving his black son to school, as you know, black people tend to have black children. Driving his black son to school, and they're pulled over by police, and you basically get to choose
your responses.
yeah, your responses in the situation to see if you can make it out alive. So clearly a very controversial topic. We'll talk about like kind of why this game is being made, if it needs to be made, and kind of in the same vein as the 6 Days of Fallujah discussion we had last week. But to join me and have these discussions, here's Ash Redux,
That's me. What's up, everybody?
Rexicon Jesse,
Oh, that's me this time.
and the Will See Blogs.
Is
We'll
it
see.
the Will See Blogs?
Hello, everyone, with your beautiful HD cameras and my subpar matte camera. Everyone's gonna get a compliment. I'm loving Ash's new camera. I'm loving the glasses. Giving me Harry Potter vibes. We're getting here from Jesse. And honestly, anytime you got a Soul Glow shirt, honely, you
Also, you
win,
picked up on that.
Jesse.
I've worn this shirt
Yeah,
several times
yeah.
on stream. No one has mentioned
Come on.
the Soul Glow reference yet. But I'm glad you guys are all here to join me. Let's jump right into things straight away. First up, we have the Activision indie dev clash. So the way the story goes, apparently this was a browser or internet-based kind of puzzle game, I think. Some sort of like tactics game.
Risk.
Yeah, like Risk-like web game called Warzone. The developer made this before Activision launched their Battle Royale, which has the same name, right? In that time, after Call of Duty launched its version of Warzone, this developer has basically had issues with people contacting him for trouble with the Activision game and confusing it on Twitch when people try to stream and whatnot for like getting the wrong tags, things like that. But regardless of that, Activision went to try and patent Warzone as, you know, a downloadable interactive medium. I want to say just after the indie dev tried to do the same, and the indie dev hit Activision with a cease and desist, saying like, you can't do that. This game existed first. I was already trying to patent this for those purposes. Activision was like, there's no way in hell anyone's going to confuse our game for your game, so this makes no sense. And then he literally has all this information that says, no, they've been doing that. So what is the beef? So like, I'm just interested in you guys' take on, I guess, Activision's argument, and then this kind of indie dev who is seemingly being walked on by Activision, which is a huge company. Like, is any party in this right? Like, should they be trying to trademark Warzone at all? It's kind of a generic title. I don't know.
It's such a generic. How would you? That's if you pick something that generic, like you should know you're not going to be able to copyright it, or at least you legally shouldn't be, because that's a stupid generic title. And B, you should be prepared to get mistaken for other things because someone else is going to use that generic ass title.
Well, based off the article, it seems like Activision, they copyrighted Call of Duty Warzone, but everyone utilizes the word Warzone in short because we already know it's Call of Duty. So then it just brings the question of, well, who's wrong here? In which I 1,000%, it's gonna sound dumb, but I really, really vibe with Activision here because this is, I've written down my proposal.
Okay.
Check it out.
Yeah.
right?
Okay. I'm interested.
First and foremost, we already know the battle's not worthwhile, right? We already know who has more money, and we already know that they're not the exact same thing. With one being a mobile, or not a mobile game, but a web browser.
Well, no, it
game.
is. It is a mobile game now. Like that's when this new patent was filed. Is he tried to? Like I think it's currently on like iOS and Android and stuff. So it's a mobile game now, just called Warzone.
Okay. Either way, very hard to be confused with one another. It says also this is what they took down. It says that Fiker, who is the developer, the indie developer, first published the game back in 2017. However, he didn't file a trademark for the name until October 2020. So now October 2020 is the deadline of pretty much when the date was written, when they tried to file the copyright. Call of Duty Warzone released back in March 2020, and the trademark was filed in June 2020. Now, I don't know. Let's do some math, guys. June is before October. So it makes it a little easy. It is hard to kind of want to side with, you obviously would want to go with the underdog in this situation, but
Right.
the company didn't do anything wrong. And it's not like it's claiming. It seems like this just became a legal battle because the main thing that the developers are saying is that it's getting confused. I'm like, well, no, that's not something. It's affecting our streaming numbers. That's not going to affect your streaming numbers because of that. It's literally a niche title and then one that's way more popularized in terms of battle royales. And then the fact that Fiker keeps going and he's like headstrong on it and is like, well, we're going to continue with the battle. It's just going to come down to money at the end of the day. And we already know who's going to win that battle.
He did. He was doing like a Kickstarter or some kind of fundraising campaign to take on Activision, which I think that could work because there's so much ill will towards Activision that people would probably pay money to see like an indie dev like take them on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was curious like how much of a say does he actually have? Because like those dates don't really match up. It's kind of like, yes, he made this game first, but he wasn't interested in trademarking it until a bigger entity tried to trademark it. But at the same time, when you're this big giant company, like why trademark such a generic title?
Well, that's the big thing. They put Call of Duty in the name. It is Call of Duty Warzone. Doesn't matter where it's going in terms of the seasoning. It's not like they said Warzone or like back in the day where both DC and Marvel were like, we're trying to trademark superhero or whatever word they were trying to use, in which you can't necessarily do it because it's just so generic of a term. It's like trying to copyright the word A. What are you doing? So it's just kind of redundant in that regard. It's not like they said, we want Warzone to be our specific title. I think it got popularized because people weren't saying the mouthful of I'm going home to play Call of Duty Warzone. No, I'm going home to play Warzone. I just think
and
that's where the
specify a
problem is.
specific mode too, because instead of just saying Call of Duty, obviously, because technically it's Call of Duty Modern Warfare, people specify that they're going to go play that Warzone mode or anything anyway. So it's like everybody just says Warzone if that's what you're going to go play. Which honestly, I think Warzone overrode like Modern Warfare multiplayer and single player at this point because no one talks about Call of Duty Modern Warfare. You just hear about Warzone online nowadays. So it's pretty crazy.
It's expanded too because think about it. Warzone is now not just associated with Modern Warfare. When they dropped Cold War, there's a Warzone Cold War, but they didn't put it together. So to keep the branding simple, they just left it under Call of Duty Warzone. Before it was Modern Warfare. I get that. But now since it's expanded, I don't even play either of the games.
I think that's why they even sought to try and trademark it as a thing. Like the name is generic, sure, but the idea is this is a standalone thing that's attached to the other Call of Duty games. So like you have Call of Duty Modern Warfare or Call of Duty Cold War, and then you have Warzone, which is just connected to it because you can play it completely separate. You don't need the main game to get that,
and it's free. Yeah,
and it's free. So I do think there is like some some butting of heads in terms of those two different technologies. Like if I'm in a store and I'm not very savvy and I'm looking for something that I know is called Warzone, I know it's related to Call of Duty, but if I just see like the article we have has like the mobile game version's logo. If I was a layperson, I would not know that that wasn't the Call of Duty one. Like if I just clicked on that, and especially like in an app store or something, like you can get angry people hitting you up saying like, "This is fake. This isn't what I thought it was." And I can see why he'd be interested in fighting that off and saying like, "No, I had this first. Let me keep it. You changed your name." But like I guess the possibility of that actually happening because he's going up against the behemoth that is Activision seems kind of foolish, and that's sad. Like it's honestly sad, but it's like dude, I don't think you're gonna win this fight.
Well, Lampy says that it's not about the IP; it's about protecting their brand and name, which I get 1,000%.
But that's like, if it's a branding thing, that's terrible. Like what you were saying, where well, if you go in and you see Warzone, you're like, well, what is this? Like that is a problem with branding and marketing, like that you have created something so generic that either you did that on purpose to try and get people to click on it, or you made a terrible name. I feel like the fight itself is dumb. It's like if you made the game Military Soldier and be like, this is my military
I'm sure
soldier.
that's on Steam somewhere.
Yeah.
It must be the Apple Arcade exclusive Military Soldier.
It's just it's a generic term, like, and that's probably why people use it, and then other than like Will, you were saying it's a mouthful to say Call of Duty Warzone. Why would you just say Warzone? That you've heard it before, like, so you're just gonna naturally gravitate towards saying that.
Yeah.
It just seems to be unfortunate naming around the board, and realistically, I don't know what their legal grounds are. It just becomes one of those things where it's like, listen, you did something. Unfortunately, something, because it's so generic, someone else utilized a portion of it. Whose fault is that? It's hard. I don't know. I don't want to say. I sound like a jerk defending Activision. I really do.
No,
but I'm not trying to.
No, I
I'm
think
using logic.
You make a logical point. It's like Tommy and Lampy are getting at. I think is that it like the name is so generic. So would they even accept that trademark for the company? And like I believe they will, because they specify it in what it is. Like it's Warzone as a downloadable interactive experience, and not just Warzone the word or Warzone the concept that they're trying to trademark, right? They just, as a downloadable video game, we own things called Warzone. Because Call of Duty intends to keep making them, right? Like I guess this indie dev only has the one. Like his previous game was called War Light, I
So
believe.
you're stuck with war.
Yeah, so it was like the sequel to War Light is Warzone. His next game will probably be War something else if it continues on that trend. So like it almost doesn't even seem worth it. Activision is in this scenario the one who kind of stands to gain the most from keeping that name and keeping that branding as, the extension of his Call of Duty stuff. So yeah, I do think it's a dumb argument as well, but I just thought it was an interesting look at kind of the struggles between like these naming conventions and how like a bad name can basically get you into this kind of trouble. Because honestly, that's what it boils down to, right? Like Warzone is a bad name for like anything. It's super generic.
Yeah.
So
Well, even if go ahead.
No,
No, Ash. I've been talking for like 9 to 5 business days. You got this.
So the one thing, because I actually read through like Activision's what's it called, their actual complaint compliant, whatever legal term I'm supposed to be using right here. So I read through it, and first I read through the whole thing. It wasn't super long, but it was a couple of pages, so I decided to read through it. First, the Activision talks big about themselves. They're like, hey, we're AAA. We've been here since 2003 making these Call of Duty games. We look at our pedigree, and then immediately goes to the next paragraph. Warzone could not be more different than the Defenders game, which is a low budget niche virtual board Hasbro Risk like game, basically. So they basically like, but I get it legally. That's what you have to do in court, is be like, hey, look at us. This is them. So at first I was like, y'all ain't had to go hard.
Yeah, like they was
that.
talking
But-
trash. They straight up was like,
Yeah.
this garbage out of here.
But-
Ain't nobody confusing our amazing product with this piece of
Which,
trash.
that's legit. When the quote where the guy said like it's inconceivable, that's in the compliant. Like it's inconceivable. Here's the thing though. I kept going right. I was like, let me read through the whole thing. So I got to the actual part where it's like the facts applicable to all claims. And the main things that I actually read where I was like, okay, see now this is where I'm like, there's no way Activision could lose this in my opinion because they had some really really good points on here. One was this is when they just start going in. Activision is informed and believes, basically start saying all the stuff that based off of what we researched, this is why what they're saying makes no sense. And they can go on for a full like 2 pages of that. First, it's like the best part, you know, the obvious stuff like this is a browser-based game that became on downloadable on apps. Our Warzone isn't on browser or apps. So first of all, platforms don't match up. That's the first thing. Second, you know, full 3D realistic approach versus the 2D like risk style gameplay. Gameplay is very different, all the normal stuff. But then that's when they hit them with the Activision is informed and believes on that basis alleges that Defenders Warzone is one of the many games titled Warzones that are available on the internet, also as browser-based games or on mobile distribution platforms such as Apple and Google Play. And then they literally name like almost 30 games that also have Warzone in the title that are browser and on mobile. So actually more directly would be compliant to what the defendant's saying is an issue. And I was like, that whole paragraph alone, while they're going saying, while Call of Duty Warzone is not currently available on browser or app or any mobile device and stuff, it's like, I don't know, guys. They have a point. I don't really. Now, and then my favorite part too, which I really felt like hit the nail on the head, because like you said, some people are getting confused. I'm not doubting that the developer who said some people are getting confused about the naming conventions and streaming on the wrong thing or whatever. I do believe that to be accurate. Now, even though earlier they said it's inconceivable, but literally Activision put it in here in their final part saying Activision firmly believes on blah, 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 that reasonably sophisticated consumers of video games or computer software would not be likely to confuse the Defenders Warzone with Activision's Call of Duty Warzone. And I was like, I honestly fully agree with that statement, and I have nothing else against that. I can't.
I mean, yeah.
Like when I go on Twitch and I type in the name of a game, I make sure I'm choosing the right game that I'm streaming for, like just in case, because I know there's other games named similar sometimes. So
I mean,
I got nothing for
that's
them.
why they pay those lawyers the big bucks, because they write stuff
they
like
wrote
that,
it
and it's
hard.
kind of iron tight when you look at it from that perspective. Like like Will said, like you want to side with the indie dev, but like Activision doesn't make like a total BS case for their side of things.
Yeah.
So
I was surprised it wasn't total BS actually.
the fact that this even got into court is surprising. But like this indie dev like really wanted this fight, you know, like they're
wanted to
like
smoke.
yeah, like they
They
went up
wanted the
against
clout that came with it. That's all.
Maybe,
because they're
yeah.
trying to take it. What else are you gonna gain from it? And even then, didn't they say at one point that they filed and they tried to settle? Like
Yeah, Activision tried to settle, and
which would have made life easier for them, because regardless, if as an indie developer, I get it. Like I've never created, but if I went through a process, I'd feel like my creation is being like kind of overshadowed. But also, worry about your next project. You already have a fan base at this point, and you know you're not gonna win. Take the settlement and keep it pushing. I think that's the only smart thing to do, but I think there might be some ego in there, so I don't know.
yeah, I also think it's crazy that Activision was even trying to do some sort of settle too. Like,
Oh,
honestly,
yeah,
I wouldn't expect that at all. I would
yeah, like they
whatever
immediately was
settlement
like,
they
all right,
gave.
here, take this. Maybe the settlement was disrespectful. It was like, here,
Yeah.
take
Even
10
if
bucks.
it was
Like,
disrespectful,
Like, how much your game cost? 99 cents. Here's a quarter.
Oh wow,
Right,
that
that's-
disrespectful.
That's what I'm thinking. If they offer a settlement, it could very well be an insultingly low number. Like,
Right.
yeah, we'll give you like 5K because we literally won't even notice that money missing. But it's a big deal to you, you little indie dev. Here you go.
I mean,
Like,
I ain't gonna lie, that
no,
would have been
I'll-
a big deal to me. I would have probably.
I'll be like, fuck, they go that gaming PC, baby.
like,
Yeah, there may be an instance of like some wounded pride, and that's why they're still going so hard. But maybe we'll hear more about this story in the future. Maybe not. It is a dumb fight. I agree. I just thought it would be a fun conversation. But we'll move on to our next topic. Amazon and its games division. Amazon has been trying to break into video games for several years now. They've had a troubled history, to say the least, of projects being canceled, projects being released, and then unreleased, and then canceled. Crucible, we're looking at you. So, The Lord of the Rings, massive IP, very popular. That license, Amazon got their hands on it, and they were developing a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. For, I want to say, 2 years or so now, we've known it's been in development. But just recently, they've completely canceled it altogether. I don't think we've ever seen anything from that game. Have we even seen a trailer from that? I don't know.
I think so.
But it's dead. Dead in the water now. This is yet another canceled video game project from Amazon, who still apparently are trying to make video games. But like, what kind of confidence, I guess, does this inspire in you guys? Like, do you still think that they are gonna eventually come out with something that hits? Like, what is their methodology here?
I'm trying to process it, but
no one's talking, so I'll just go first. I mean, if you look at a lot of game development studios and their first several titles, you probably won't recognize. Like, I love From Software. You know, they've been making games for a while. Hadn't heard of Kingsfield, all four of them, or Shadow Tower, or Echo, that horror game they made. Like, found out about all those afterwards. After like Dark Souls, they hit their big. I mean, Blizzard didn't start with World of Warcraft,
right?
Like, there is Rare. Like, I feel like companies like Amazon and Google are coming out expecting to, the thing that makes a successful company is an ass ton of money, and it's not. And they might eventually learn that. I don't know. Or they might find a magic formula with the right group of people to create a game that they can, you know, create something good out of the gate. And because of the marketing push, that enough people will stick with it or get into it, and they'll have a hit on their hands. But usually it's not the first thing. Like, it could be successful, but not mega successful. And they're trying to throw mega successful amounts of money at it to start, and they still don't know what they're doing. Also, this is the other MMO, because New World's
New World is the other one. Yeah.
Why are they trying to like get into their own funding? Like, that's
no. There seems to be a number of issues with the way Amazon is looking at developing games. Like, it's similar, I want to say, to like the whole DC Marvel movie beef. How like Marvel kind of took the time to build out a bunch of characters and then put all those characters together in a connected universe, and DC went like, oh, that's making a ton of money, that Avengers thing. Let's start there.
That Avengers thing.
Yeah, it's like they're kind of cutting corners in terms of getting into the big leagues, and it's because, yes, Amazon is a huge company. They're in the tech space. They have tons of capital. They could theoretically put the kind of resources behind the same projects that, you know, Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo have. But it's like this culture and expertise that they're missing, and just this straight up experience. Like, they don't know, I guess, how to take the loss, like how to, like, I don't know. There's something missing in their strategy to develop games. Like, they are looking to hit a big jackpot, and anything that isn't hitting that bar, they immediately disregard. But on one hand, is that a bad thing? Amazon, who can't afford to waste millions and millions of dollars on this project, if they do say, all right, well, this game isn't good, why release it and have it be out there in the world as a bad representation of Amazon games? Let's kill it now. Sure, we'll get bad press in the meantime, but people will forget about it because it was a game that never came out. And then, however many years they keep at this, they do release that one big game that is a big deal. And it's like, oh, Amazon Studios made blah, 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 and it's breaking all these records. It has, you know, tens of millions of players. Like, then that's the story. And then they did hit the jackpot, except it was like the fourth or fifth time. Right? Like, is that such a bad idea? I wonder.
I mean, if the game is bad, if they were like, this is not fun, and we'd have to start over to make it fun, let's can it. That was probably the right decision. Yes.
to be fair though, it said something about Bloomberg saying that the main reason was because of having an issue between Amazon and Tencent, because Tencent purchased whoever they were working with to develop the game or
What,
whatnot.
the developer?
Let me bring it back up because I have it. I saw it when
Yeah, I
I was
think
going through.
Mpox just mentioned something as well. Yeah, it was partially canceled because of a fight with Tencent, which is interesting. No idea how true that is.
Yeah, so it looks like they were the game was in development at Amazon Game Studios alongside China-based, I'm not gonna pronounce this right, Liu Technologies Holdings, which was then purchased in December of 2020 by Tencent. They said that the contract negotiations between Amazon and Tencent were said to have caused a dispute that led to the game's cancellation, is
Oh,
what
wow.
Bloomberg says. So whatever, I guess after Tencent bought, they're like, hey, we don't like this contract because we're Tencent and we probably have just as much, if not more money than you do, Amazon. So come at us. Because
Oh man,
Tencent,
that would be a fight.
Tencent do got the bucks. Yeah, that's a crazy fight, right? Like I kind of want to see what went on in those meetings because that sounds hilarious. Both people, Jeff Bezos with I forget who's in charge of Tencent, just looking at her like,
Isn't
whose
it
net worth is
Jack
higher?
Jack Ma or am I want to say it's Jack Ma.
It might be, but I feel like just like whose net worth is higher because that'll determine what goes down here.
I mean, if that, and that's something I did not know about the situation. If does that change anything though? Because like optics
No.
wise, yeah, it still looks like Amazon can't get a game out the door. Like whether it's in terms of development shenanigans, quality shenanigans, like in the Crucible situation, or just straight up business deals. Like they're kind of failing on all fronts. It looks like that's something you should be able to work out, right? If you're going to get products out, like if you have all these other different companies, especially for a big budget production, usually have a lot of different entities working on it all at once. If you can't come to agreements with everybody involved, you don't get a game made.
I think it goes down to Amazon just like we said, just trying to get in the markets where they see that there's money, but not really knowing enough to.
But should they be there in the first
But should they
place?
be there? Because for example, you would think Amazon acquires Twitch. They have all this money. They can actually start putting in features and stuff that actually helps creators grow without having the need to be on outside platforms and actually adding features that the people want on Twitch, but they don't. They keep doing very small, meaningless updates or, having to deal with trolls and stuff like that. But it's like they have all this money and they got it. And I think that they've technically been losing money because of Twitch. Like after they acquired Twitch, Amazon's been losing money from Twitch. And I'm like, I really feel like they just don't know what to do with the things that they're trying to do involving the gaming scene. Just crazy because you can hire somebody who knows what to do because you have money. I just don't get it.
You would think it'd be as simple as that, but keep in mind, didn't Google do the same thing? And isn't Stadia just flourishing? It's an amazing platform. Everyone utilizes it, right? I don't even have an Xbox anymore. I just use my Stadia because,
Fair. Yeah.
like, no, it's. Here's my hot take: they should not, Amazon and Google, because they're one in the same boat for me, should not be attempting to do their own production studios based off their history. It just does not work in their favor. And what ends up happening is there's literal developers who waste hundreds, if not beyond, like, I don't want to say thousands, but a ton of hours gone, canned. Instead, what I think would make more sense is to attempt to have some sort of like association, kind of like how Sony didn't know what they were doing with Spider-Man, so they're like, "Yo, Marvel, help us. Let's figure something out." Granted, I know that's a trade-off in some situations, but there's no. Amazon's most profitable thing is, if not, I forget, it's their services that they offer, the Amazon Web Services. So maybe utilize that to trade, use it as a bargaining chip, and allow these things to actually be created. Because I won't pretend like I know about the contracts and stuff. I know Tencent's a huge corporation, but aside from that, it just is what it is. And honestly, for those who are the fans here who are shocked, you've seen this coming from like miles away.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's actually shocked from.
Well, based off somebody, because after I read the article, I started looking on Twitter, and there's people, they start expressing. I'm like, why? This is the 5th time Amazon Game Studios canceled something. Why? This is not exactly shocking. And to be fair, like my approach is way more cynical and pessimistic because of the fact that 1, I don't like MMORPGs, and 2, I've never seen the Lord of the Rings.
Right,
a day
yeah,
in my life,
we're
so I
back
could
to
give two
this
shits.
this nugget of
Yeah,
information.
Exactly.
Will and his
So
hate
for
for Lord of the
me,
Rings.
I don't
I
hate it.
haven't seen any Lord of the Rings either, Will. So okay, I'm with
Oh,
you.
see?
hit it, chat. Ban Ash.
Wait,
But
wait.
it's also not a hate situation. I just did that just because of the fact that good old Jerome, our editor in chief, wanted to go against me. So I'm like, because you like it, I dislike it. I hate it. Dark Souls, hate it. But that it's an
I
empty
knew
logic
Landon
beyond
was
that.
a fan.
Yeah, so like I don't know. The combination of the IP and the genre like made it clear for me to save my money. And now everyone can save their money and put it towards something better.
I mean,
Because chances are that could have been terrible.
let's be
based
real.
off
Like,
analysis.
what money are you actually saving? You were gonna buy something on Amazon anyway. Like, they're gonna get your money.
Yeah, shut up.
But no, like, I like that you're bringing in Google as a counter to this argument, because as disappointed as I was in Google bowing out of their video game world bid, I do think at least Google was trying to do something innovative. They were trying to do something with it that only they could do. They said, we have this YouTube platform, like how Amazon has the Twitch platform. We want to build in all these services into the streaming stuff that you can't do anywhere else. Like the stuff with the, interactive viewers, where like if I'm watching someone play a game, or someone is designing a level or something, I can take that moment that they're in and then try it myself in my game, like instantly. Like stuff like that is cool. It never came to fruition, but like the idea behind it was cool. And like Ash is mentioning, they own Twitch, which is something that nobody else has been able to really break into to any significant degree. Like Facebook and Google have been trying, but Twitch is the king in terms of live streaming content, right? Why not tie whatever your game stuff is going to be into that somehow? Like make it unique, make it different. All they're looking at is just what everyone else is doing and making a lot of money at. It's like, hey, we don't make that much money doing what they're doing, so let's throw our hat into that ring. Millions and millions of dollars of investment, and just wasted time and effort from all the people involved. Like, it seems like such a waste. Is like, I think, the biggest problem, because like you get excited when you hear about new studios, new games, whatever, and for them to just be like, all right, well, this isn't good enough, scrap it. This isn't that isn't good enough, scrap it. It leaves me with mixed feelings, because like, sure, I'm not a big MMORPG fan, but there are people who are, and people who love the Lord of the Rings franchise. So if that came out and was good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no shame in that.
What you're saying too about the devs, I think, is the thing that hurts me the most about the story.
Mhm.
It's like that's 2 years of their time, and they do not have a shipped game to show.
Mhm.
And if you look at it, having that experience is useful, but one of the things you will constantly see on resumes, on a like job listings for game design positions and like all sorts of, is a number of shipped games that they want you to meet. And if you spent 2 years with a company that was like, we're going to make it, we got all this money, we're going to throw it behind it, don't worry, we're going to get it out, and then they can it, that's 2 years gone from you.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
wasted.
I mean,
That's
at
crazy.
least
I
they
didn't know
get
that.
they get some sort of bonus though, because it's like, listen, and I don't mean bonus in terms of monetary, but like this didn't ship. I didn't end up having what they have. Hopefully, they have some examples they could utilize outside of it and like similar to a portfolio, not in terms of ship, but like I guess it'd be a little more understandable because you're working under Amazon, and that's like a huge name. It's not like you did it under an independent thing and it just happened to flop. So I think they'd probably have more leeway in that. I don't know. Not a
Well,
developer.
But that's the thing. Like, Amazon is a big company in and of itself, but as a game studio, like as a game publisher,
Yeah.
they don't have a good track record. They don't have prestige in that sense.
Yeah.
So like, I
Well,
don't even know if that's, I mean, like maybe there's job security in the sense that they can the game. They're probably not going to close the studio over it because they still have the money to
Yeah.
kind of keep those people employed and to just move them over to a different project. So maybe that's the silver lining to all this. But they still, like, Amazon needs to ship something in order to join the party, to be considered, one of, the big
big boys,
players.
okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, that's why my thing was more so at the fact that it's just like, I don't know, when you hear the name of Amazon, you think of obviously the initial, but you don't think of the game studio. But you can or at least argue at that point that you were trying to be that person that's like breaking the mold and having something that's bold and doing a release like that. Obviously, it sounds more like I'm just being inspirational and stuff. And in reality, I don't know what it looks like when you're actually behind the chair. But one would hope. Either way, it's a shitty situation for both parties, and Amazon should probably just stop and figure something else. Work with something or
Agreed.
create something from the ground up. Copy the frame that Sony does in-house and then work from there. I don't
I
know.
mean, I think that's the problem is that they're trying to copy those guys, and
Yeah, but don't do an MMORPG. Start with something people want.
Yeah, I think
well, that is a good point.
Bible.
Yeah, that's
Start with something easier because MMORPGs are honestly like when it comes to trying to balance everything, I feel like can't be easy to
like
make.
yeah, like yeah. I don't think there's been like a big successful MMORPG since like Final Fantasy 14, right? And they had to try that again. Like it released and was a failure.
It was a bust,
and they had to
at
redo it before it was a success. So like yeah, like that's really difficult to try and chase. So like they're really just looking at like the numbers of like, oh, what's super popular? That okay, that let's do one of those. And like yeah, and like Lampy's saying, there's a saying in R&D: if you're gonna fail, fail fast. Google did that. Amazon are still beating that dead horse.
Jesus.
Says, I've
Snappy's
hired
hiring developers?
yeah,
What?
I've hired a lot of developers. Having worked for Google or Amazon doesn't mean much if you have nothing to show for it. Yeah, that's a good
I was trying
point.
to be positive. I don't know.
You think Lampy got upset that we haven't seen Lord of the Rings because he worked on Lord of the Rings, guys. Quick
Probably.
hot take. Quick hot take.
I'm good. I own, for those on the chat that's trying to roast me, I own the extended edition and the Hobbit. I have them. Where will I find the hours? Let me find a good pandemic, the hardest wave. I'll just like, all right, fine. What am I gonna do at this point?
Like you need an
I
even
guess.
harder pandemic to
Yeah, I don't want a harder pandemic, but I need a reason. You know what I mean? Like,
No, I gotcha.
Look at all this free time I have.
All right.
stop playing the games.
So any lingering thoughts on this, or do we want to move on to our third post topic?
good.
Topic is the word I'm looking for.
Yep.
All right. So, Path of Exile. It is a Diablo clone, but it's a very popular one. Huge player base. On a Reddit legal forum, a post showed up with a person stating that they were disabled. They injured their hand in some sort of industrial accident, and they use macros to refresh certain potions while they play the game. And essentially, they need to do this in order to play the game because of their disability, right? And because of the use of macros, which can be seen as cheating, it's kind of a sticky situation, especially in the disabled community. That account was banned. So they were asking, did they have grounds to, seek legal, because they spent like hundreds of dollars on their Path of Exile account. Did they have grounds to start a suit against their ban with Grinding Gear Games, who are the creators of Path of Exile? Turns out that was a lie. That entire post was a complete and utter lie. Path of Exile devs, tried to find where this had happened because it blew up on social media. Like Steven Spawn, who Jesse and I, we did the Escapist Able Gamers live stream, which raised money for Steven Spawn's charity, Able Gamers. He's like the CFO, CEO, COO of Able Gamers, right? He basically tweets this out and says like, "Hey, can we get someone to look at this? Because this isn't good. This doesn't make you look good that you banned this person for this." Turns out the whole thing was fake. Then a post shows up saying, "Okay, I'm an educator. This was an experiment that I did for my class where I wanted to show them how false information can travel and how you only have to do like a limited amount of research to sound like an expert on anything." Because apparently he'd never played the game and basically said something that sounded like he'd played the game and basically used the video game space as a seemingly harmless ecosphere to test this out in, like, versus something like politics. Like, he didn't want to spread misinformation someplace that could be dangerous, is what his thought process was. And so people are now skeptical of that post because there was also a claim that, that account was hacked, and that's where that post came from. But who actually knows at this point? Either way, the initial post was fake. Like, what is your immediate reaction to, the intent of this so-called educator in using a video game space and also masquerading as a disabled gamer to kind of prove a bigger point in his head?
Can I go first on this one real quick
Yeah, go right ahead.
for what my initial reaction is? My
Go
initial
right ahead.
reaction was literally the title of the article. When I saw the link in the show notes, where I'm like, why is it titled like that? That's such a weird way to like. Can we use some good English? But then I read, I'm like, yeah, no, is a-hole correct? Is a-hole? Yeah, that's simple. Just is a-hole. You don't even want to waste more time with more words for this person. Just is a-hole. That's it. That's it today. Because honestly, it's like I get what if it really was an educator, right?
Mhm.
It's something that we all know is like, people can't easily like believe someone's story on the internet, whether it be true or not. But part of us as human beings like to think someone wouldn't come on here and lie about being disabled and also then try to get legal advice on top of that. Like not just lie, like just say, oh man, I got banned and I'm disabled. Like you start asking people for actual legal advice and starting a whole thing. Like no one believes you would go that far. That's why it's so easily believable, because part of us is like, man, I hope most human beings have enough decency not to
Right.
lie.
Right. It's like
about-
who
Yeah.
in their right mind would lie about this?
Right.
Right? Like you would
It-
think you would believe in the inherent goodness of humans in a sense that they wouldn't make up something about that.
Right. And the worst part is like, we've seen this just in normal, more normal stuff, everyday stuff. And we've seen even like celebrities do stuff like this before. It was like, why did you just go through all, like, this is a real thing. Like, it's already a thing. People know what's going on. And now you're saying I did this to bring attention to something. It's like that is a-hole. That's really all I got. Is a-hole. Like, what was his name with the whole, what's the guy from Empire? Played Jamal. in
Oh,
Empire?
Jesse Smollett.
Yeah, and that whole thing is like, it's already an issue. We already know. You don't need to like try to make it a bigger issue. It's already a big issue. Leave it alone. Is a-hole. There you go.
This episode is now called "Is A-hole."
Those are my thoughts. That's it.
Okay. Will, do you have input on this situation?
Is this episode like, is it gonna be explicit or no? Because that's
I
the
mean-
big question. Are you gonna check that when you post it?
Like we have a mature content warning on the page.
All right,
Just try
Bet.
not to go.
This motherfucker. No, stop. Okay. No. No. I was pissed. Immediately pissed. And like it's unprofessional. It's ignorant. It's disgusting. And honestly, you're crying wolf and claiming to be disabled when you're not, we already know is scummy. Why do it? I don't know. Now I got more so pissed because of the fact that, like, I don't know, for those who don't know, I took a job where now I'm educating kids in terms of gaming and other aspects, podcasting, and so on and so forth. So I'm doing a lot of stuff in terms of teaching. And one of the things I pride myself on is, one, getting to know the students and how they react to all these things, but two, having that sort of self-respect for myself and obviously to my class. So as an educator, never would I put myself in a situation where my students are in this question, like where we have to question our ethics or morals. Like, it's just dumb. It's mental. And then what example are you putting in any way, even if this was for a legitimate educational thing, what example are you placing for yourself, for the gamers within multiple communities, just fans of Path of Exile and those who are disabled? You're putting people in a bad light. I would never claim to be on a stream or something like that. Like, I guess there's certain people that pretend that, or they just have like deeper voices. What's that guy's name? Like Corpse. You don't see his face and stuff like that. Like, never will I claim to be something I'm not. Never will I claim to not, like, oh, I'm John Smith from Iowa. Like, why would I do that? Or why would a white person attempt to be a person of color on stream for clout? No, dumb. Don't do that. Why would you do that? Now, if you're just a troll, that's even worse. Because you can't pretend like you, I don't know. I don't think you should be using the struggles of a disabled person or gamer, because then to prove a point, like at that point, you're using them as a scapegoat. And that's just beyond me. So overall, like, really, it's a dumb decision made by an individual who deserves to feel some sort of repercussions. Whether it's supposed to be If he's a true educator, I think he should be fired and banned from the IP. His IP should be banned from Reddit. Very simple as that. Not to be able to create a new account. If it's a troll, then more. I don't know where, but they do deserve more profound consequences. Simply just because of the fact that, in reality, we already seen through the last 4 years how toxic and bullshit information can cause a problem in terms of politics. Let's not leak that into anything else. It's bad enough that we deal with it on our everyday life. The fact that we have to deal with it on the internet makes people more toxic and throws more fuel into the fire. Just my take.
No, great points. Jesse, your immediate reaction.
Yeah, just upset. Like, I was trying to figure out exactly how I like felt to put it into words, but I think honestly, Steven Swan put it the best way. Put out a tweet that just said, pretending to be a disabled gamer to harass a company is the lowest of low. People are already skeptical of people claiming to be disabled. So congratulations, Troll, you did it. You made the world harder. You made the world a harder place for legitimate disabled people to get the attention of the devs. It's like, yeah, that's exactly the problem that this game. There was no reason, kind of what you were saying, Will, where it's like, if you are an educator, which who knows who this person is, but if you are, how could you put your credibility up like that? Like that's, ugh. Yeah, it's terrible on so many levels.
Yeah, and I want to go into those additional levels because, like, right there on the surface, it's the masquerading as a disabled person to try and prove a point, which is like so scummy. But let's say that wasn't the case. Let's say that they claimed some other issue, didn't claim to be disabled, but claimed that they got banned by Path of Exile because they wanted to lie on the internet or whatever, right? Supposedly, again, we don't know if this educator thing is the actual story. It's just what came after the first lie. But apparently the school's ethics board thought that his experiment was okay. Like, he went to an ethics board at the school and was like, sure, go ahead. That's fine. That's safe. To basically put lies on the internet in a video game ecosystem, I guess, right? And that just leads me to believe, so what is the academic opinion on like gaming culture that they're like, that's fine to basically seed disinformation and whatnot into that community? Like, it's fine to do it there, it'll be safe, it'll be fine there, as if there isn't this whole underbelly of toxicity with people sending death threats, people doxing one another, people swatting one another. Like, these are all real things that have legitimate consequences and like flare up for like the dumbest, most innocuous situations, right? Like games getting delayed or characters in a game not being exactly the way a certain player base wants them to be, right? Like, people get death threats over that nonsense. But then you give them a legitimate thing to be mad about, or not a legitimate thing. Like, you lie to them about there being legit, like actual discrimination against, disabled communities and whatnot. That's something that could make an actual person very mad and upset, which it did when it was first a lie, and then turned around and was mad at the liar for lying about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a thing that is a legitimate problem that he lied about. But to introduce that into community and to claim that that's harmless, I feel like is also really scummy. Like, how disrespectful of the gaming community are those institutions? Like, they really don't give a crap about, like, people who play video games. They think it's that meaningless, I guess.
That was literally gonna be the next thing I said too. I was like, obviously we all focus on what the main issue was first, is like for people who are disabled and how like just impostering being disabled is just wrong. We all started there. And then when you start saying, I'm like, yeah, we got to at least get to the fact that the guy, if this was true about being an educator, super downplayed being a part of the gaming community. Like, you could tell, like, if that was honest, like, you could tell those educators and the ethics board or whatever were just like, yeah, whatever, it's just video games anyway.
Right.
It's just video games.
Yeah.
It's just the most immersive type of media you can be into. It's just video games.
Something tells me that he was just capping throughout the whole thing.
There's a definite possibility of that.
My logic is this: if I were to try to run this where I'm working with elementary, middle school children, this is not gonna fly. simply because morals. Why are we lying? Second of all, if we're going into high school, what high school would let this fly in terms of anything? Because now when you start getting into those social studies subjects or start talking about the law, start talking about this, that, and the third, this is something that can be conducted inside of your classroom or like simulated in a regard. But I'm not saying like obviously saying like, you know, be a jerk, but this can be simulated in a regard where it doesn't impact other people and you start to feel it. It's like trying to teach kids racism and stuff like that. You have to, you can do that within a classroom in a high school level and have an understanding for those who are uneducated or just have been privileged. That's understandable. In a college or university level, this makes no sense as esports are emerging. Literally, universities are grasping at it because that's a potential market. That's going to bring in more students, potentially bring another source of income because guess what? COVID and sports are a thing. So reality to any, like, it just doesn't add up in my mind. And I'm like, I don't think I'm sure the gaming community is looked down upon in some regards, but in terms of actually treating people like people, not like trash, and not using other people as an excuse, come on. Like, it's night and day. And for anybody who truly thinks that this is legit, if this guy is legit, that's why I said this dude needs to get fired or gal off the rip and not be teaching in any sort of shape, way, or form.
I mean, I would agree with that. Like, across the board, it was such a stupid idea. It was such a bad idea. And for it to get this far, it's like everybody involved in that. Anyone who's took a look at it before it happened. I'm hesitant to even say like the students in the class didn't go like, "Hey, you sure this is a good idea, professor?" or whatever.
Straight up.
Like,
and it gets me more mad because of the fact that where are you using disabled gamers as a crutch there? That's the equivalent of using a person of color. You know how hard it is as a content creator, as a person of color, to get relevant, to be a name that's bigger than like a PewDiePie. It's almost non-existent. So why do that? Because it doesn't make sense. None of that situation had logic.
Just want to bring up real quick, Duality Darkside says, as a person who has a disability, I don't like this. I understand why he did this, but it actually does more harm. It pisses me off that someone who is an educator chose this to prove a point. A person with disabilities have it hard enough to get noticed in the gaming world. Exactly. Right?
Yep.
Same thing.
Oh. Yeah. Definitely, like you were saying, Will, it's something you can definitely teach within the confines of a classroom. Even if you used theoretically use that as an example of what they did. Just say, all right, class, so if I went online, I did this, did that, more than likely because of human decency, people will believe I'm telling the truth. Like, you can literally explain that in the classroom and still try to get the point across. Unless they're too young where they couldn't get the point, which you should be teaching them right now anyway, because they just won't get it. It's like, kids aren't dumb. I mean, kids are dumb, but not like that.
Kids are pretty dumb.
Kids are dumb. But
New episode titled,
some things kids get.
I'm sorry.
We can be honest. It's okay. Technically, your brain, the rational part of your brain doesn't
stop developing
until you're 25 anyway. So it's like whatever. So,
at least they have an excuse, right?
At least they have an excuse. So,
the teacher does.
Somebody just clip the kids are dumb though. I need that as a soundbite for something. Future. I'll stream more if I can just put on my little like stream deck. Kids are dumb.
They're dumb.
Okay. Gets fired immediately.
Right? Yeah. Don't you teach kids like right now?
But kids are dumb. It's okay.
I tell
okay.
when kids, I treat them like they're adults. When they start acting like adults, thinking they can start badmouth, I'm like, you gonna act like an idiot? I'm gonna treat you like an idiot. It's really as simple.
Will, this is on the internet, by the way.
I know, and you know what? My bosses support that because you're supposed to treat them the way that they treat them like emerging adults. That's the terminology I would utilize.
Oh, that's a forward-thinking way to like look at children, not in a good way. Like that could be a very problematic tag. But anyway, let's move on to our let's move on to our final topic. Our America. It's a student project, a game, as you will, about a black man's commute. He's taking his son to school, and he's pulled over by a police officer. In the scenario, you get to choose the responses that the father says, I guess based on stuff that the police officer says to him, and whether or not you make it out of the situation with your life is dependent on supposedly your choices. There are two trailers that I want to bring light to. Crap, I should have done this earlier. In fact, I was planning to and didn't. I was going to play the trailer that was on the Twitter. But what I'll do for you guys, I'll show you the Twitter, and then I'll post the link that Ash went and found for me in the chat, so you guys can take a look at it. You'll look at it in a different browser. Don't look at it in. Don't click away from the conversation. Is what I'm saying.
So I like how you refer to it as the Twitter. You grandpa.
The Twitter.
You grandpa.
I mean, you kids been using the Facebook recently?
Okay, so that first link is the Twitter conversation.
He said it again. Dang it.
No, because I didn't finish the sentence.
Another one.
And the second one is the actual homepage for the game, where they have another one on there. So while they're maybe listening to that, I'd like to get you guys' initial reaction to this. And mind you, we did have a very similar conversation to this last week in regards to the 6 Days of Fallujah game and how Muslim rights activists were basically saying that they wanted the game banned. I saw very similar conversations underneath this tweet. Black individuals very upset, saying, "We don't want this. Like, who is this for?" Et cetera, et cetera. So I want to know what you guys' take is. You guys' takes are on a game like this, an experience like this.
See, here's the thing. People gonna think I'm racist if I say something stupid. And that's not the case. I just think I don't think this is necessary. The whole concept of the game, right, is that it's supposed to be it's shedding light on an experience. Like, this is just a regular, everyday, like, black family was just the father and son in this situation, just minding their business. I don't have a problem with people educating in that regard. I just think it's the wrong medium for it, if you ask me. When you ask me, this would have been better as like a documentary, like a potential something along those lines, interviewing people, exposing the experience from actual people who want to shed the light on the situation, rather than using it in I don't want to say entertaining, but throwing it into gaming, which is traditionally supposed to be an entertaining medium, doesn't quite add up to me. You know what I mean? Plus this is actual people's trauma. You know what I mean? Like, people have experienced this in a day-to-day situation. I mean, I know how hard it is. I went down south the other day during spring break, and I was in the car and cops are looking, and it's just like, oof. It's that your heartbeat starts amping up. You start you're sweaty on the palms, and you're like, I don't know what I did wrong, but I feel like I did something wrong because of the situation. It's not something that I think not that it doesn't deserve to be within the medium. It just doesn't make sense. It's the wrong puzzle piece, if you ask me. As a VR experience, like, even if it was just a regular game, okay. Even if it like a Telltale, it'd probably be a little bit sort of understandable and easier. But the way that I'm seeing it from the VR perspective, it's just like, this is not the level of escapism I think people are looking for. People are going to twist this and think that it's looking at a way to capitalize and kind of bring that experience to make money off the trauma. And in reality, I don't know. I can't speak on that regard. But dude, it doesn't add up to me. It's not something I would personally want to play because of the fact that I've experienced it. So, like, and a lot of people were saying on that Twitter thread, they're like, just let me kill zombies as a black person. Like, it's just like, let me exist. Let me see my representation.
Right.
And have some fun with it. Like, that's what's more, like, I support more of that rather than what we have now.
That's a very good point. Jesse,
that's why I said I didn't want to sound racist, because then people are going to be like, he said he don't want people to see the situation. No, it's not that.
No,
I don't think you sound racist at all, Will.
Jesse, you want to go, or you want me to go first?
Thanks.
Up to you, Ash.
All right, I'll go. Mine won't be too long anyway. So, yeah, I'm basically with Will on this one. I don't know why I said basically. I am with Will on this one. It didn't sound racist at all. Like, when I read some people's comments, you know, they're like, watching. Some people are like, yeah, who is this game actually for? Which is a good point. Who is the game for? Because let's be honest, if you're actually racist, you'll probably enjoy the game for bad reasons. If you're just privileged / ignorant on the matter, I don't really think the game is going to do too much for it. I don't know. I feel like just because it's fictional video game characters. Now, on the website though, it did say this is what got me, and this is why I thought why I shared the link, because I thought it was mildly important to know that it says Our America is an autobiographical.
Words are hard.
I don't know. Words are hard. Okay. Autobiographical VR experience about a father and son who get pulled over by the police on their way to school. The audience must make quick decisions, answer questions, but any wrong move is the difference between life and death. So it's like I play a horror game, right? I don't even like horror games that much, but if I play one, I know what I'm getting into. It's still like, not real life horror game. It's like I feel like a real life horror game. You know what I mean? Like something that's like actually plausible. If I drive down the street today, it's not something I want to play. Like that's not. It's a different type of thing. Like people, technically, like getting most scientists from stuff I read say like getting scared, like that kind of thing, is actually good for you a little bit. Not obviously not all the time, but if you watch a horror movie or play a horror game, and like you get that fear, and it kind of technically works on your heart because of your heart pounding like that, it's actually good for your heart a little bit to get scared a little bit every now and again. Makes sense. Sure. Okay. Whatever. But it's like if you play something that could potentially just make you worry about that scenario happening in real life all the time. Like it's not like, Final Destination, where the whole like amusement park scene happened and all the rides and start collapsing and stuff. It's like one, chances of it happening like that still very low. Like the amount of how much happens in the movie.
Sure.
hey, I already don't get on Screaming Metal Death Trap, so it doesn't matter.
I felt that.
You felt that? I like that.
I love that band.
I love that band.
But like it's just like, even though it's something that's like technically still a little bit more real life when it comes to Final Destination, it's like the smallest of margin. Oh my God, words are hard today.
Jesus.
Just a small bit of margarine for your
margarine. It's very unlikely that things will play out. Like, because literally Final Destination is like the most extreme case of a series of unfortunate events. That's literally what the Final Destination movies are. This is like anytime you get pulled over, there's cops everywhere. There's probably at least one every couple of blocks. No matter
there's
where
something
I'm at.
happening right now. That's the game, literally.
That's the game. There's something happening alongside of the games right now. Even if someone may not potentially, have gotten killed in that scenario, there's still someone who could be getting harassed. There could be someone who's being taken advantage of. All those situations. It doesn't matter. It's happening right now. It's a bit much. Also, like some people were saying too, and like we were saying, like some people might be getting their how it was eloquently worded on Twitter, because things are always eloquently worded on Twitter.
Sure.
Where someone was like, "Oh God, people getting to act out their black drama, or people desensitizing the actual issue." Or the best case was the one that I said was so eloquently put, where it was like, man, people really get off on looking at this kind of stuff when we guys stop using when would you guys stop using black trauma as your porn? And I was like, oh wow, okay, you really went for it, huh? You made
like black trauma porn is a thing. Just look at that new show on Amazon, Them. Like I've been hearing really bad things about it. From the surface, it kind of looked like it was gonna go that route.
Wait a minute. No, that's the thing that my moms were watching, and I was like, "Why are you watching this racist?" She's like, well." And she's like, "I feel bad," and I'm like, "And you're watching this?" She's like, "Well, I'm on their side." I'm like, "Ma, what are you doing?"
What are you doing? But yeah, so my case in point is, in contrast to the other game that we talked about before, that took place in the Middle East, and it was something like, obviously there's still war, right? There's still people fighting. People will always be fighting about something. I get it. But at least they they took the time. It seems like they're taking time to do some research, talking to people of the other side who actually were impacted by it, basically getting almost like an okay, because if they're doing the interviews, I'm assuming they're at least mildly okay with them producing the game. That's an assumption, but I feel like it's a semi-safe one, because I wouldn't give them information if I wasn't okay with it. So that's just me. No matter how good a check might be. But but for this, is like nobody was asking for it. and I think that's the reason why, is because none of us wanted this. They already had like I think there was a movie that came out semi recently with some actual pretty big name actors and actresses in it. I can't remember the name of it. I don't remember if it came out completely. But it's like his son was like killed by a cop, and next thing you know, him and I guess some other guys are literally holding up the police station. Have you seen the trailer?
That was like a
familiar.
BET movie. It was I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it sounds like a BET movie. So
No, I literally do think BET produced it. That's the thing.
I agree. I meant it. It sounds like a BET movie. And even though it's one of those things where it's like you and my wife is like, she doesn't even watch those movies like that anymore, because she's like, I'm just tired of seeing it. It already happened. I don't want to see it anymore. I get it. Like I don't like you guys said, game is usually an escape for people, and it's fine to put some real life stuff in it, but it's like a lot of us are tired of seeing it, not in a bad way. It's like, oh, I'm tired of hearing about what's happening to real life people, but I'm tired of seeing it in movies and TV shows and everything. You know,
I get that. I get that.
Yeah, it's exhausting. And so now a game that's literally like a whole VR experience of me being further exhausted is not what I want. And according to Twitter, like 95%
most
of these
people
tweets
kind of aren't in that camp. But how about you, Jesse? What's your take on this student project, as it's been called?
I don't feel incredibly qualified to talk about this.
No, it's fine. I'm interested in your perspective as, you know, an outsider to, I guess, like the immediate connection to that visceral experience, right?
He said that you like melanin. That's what I think he said.
Wow. He said melatonin. You're mixing it up again.
That was the exact quote. I heard it. No. Yeah.
American Skin. Thank you, Blue Magic, for putting the name of the movie in there, by the way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is a different perspective for me. And I think a big chunk of this is very similar to the 6 days we were talking about last week, where, okay, what is the intent and how are they doing it? Like how and why, the intent and how it's getting pulled off is very important to, you know, does this matter? Is this cashing in on something, or is this trying to, you know, bring information to light? Kind of, and I personally don't, again, same as I said last week, I feel like games as a documentary is valid as a genre. I mean, look at Depression Quest. That's not an entertaining game or a fun game. It's a sad game about terrible things. But it is important for the creator to get people to understand that point of view. So, and like with you, Will, you were saying with film that, you know, well, film, you know, for that medium is okay for having these documentary things where, you know, video games is not. But I mean, film also, I believe, started as entertainment, and documentaries came off as part of that. And it had to be something that was accepted. And if you saw early on a documentary about something terrible or sad, it's like, well, this should be entertaining. Why is this here? You're banking on this. And I think it's just how media changes and how new forms of media approach and how they have to grow, and that having these conversations is going to be part of that growth and how we interpret how these things go. So yes, I do think documentaries and games is good, but again, what is the purpose? How are they doing it? And I think that it's further exacerbated because also what you were saying, you just want to see like more representation in the entertaining games. You want to be able to play a black character in your zombie shooting game. And that because there is a lack of that it makes it harder when stuff like this happens, because you want the representation in a good way.
Right.
And
yeah. That's a really good
there.
point. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not opposed to obviously having just to clarify, like having it within gaming within itself. You know what I mean? Like these situations could be elegantly put and added in. It's just the more so, I think the added VR, which by the way, I think it must be like alpha because that VR is not looking good. But
Did you see the cop's arm?
Yeah, it was like, what is that? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it did not look good in that.
That's what I'm saying. It got to be alpha right now. I'm not opposed to having that within it. It's just I think it'd be more effective reaching outside of that, because gamers. Here's the thing, like it's foolish to assume that we all automatically look at it like we're all genuinely good people. There are sick people who get off of these things, and there's people, that's why they have games where you can be a school shooter, and they have games where you can just literally murder anybody. Even Manhunt at one point was like, whoa, what's going on here? Whatever the situation ends up being. It's just more so about how it's packaged and the way that this is presented. It looks like this wouldn't be something that should be on a major release, if you ask me. Like anybody who can pick up on like a Steam store or whatever ends up. This does seem like something that could be beneficial in terms of an educational aspect. Maybe if there was like conventions, whenever that becomes a thing, and people actually put a chance to VR and explain it. Like, yeah, I think that makes a little bit more sense. I just don't want it to be in that regard where this is the main release, because also you have to look at when I can't speak fully on the Black experience as a Puerto Rican male, but I do know for a fact that I've been in the car and have seen some stuff go down, and I also know, I guarantee you, based off the lines of dialogue there, that's not how most people react depending on where you are regionally. If you're in Atlanta, Georgia, I guarantee you will not run across the exact same situation you would run in San Francisco, California. It's just not the same thing. There's different reactions, there's different sort of educational backgrounds. There's some people who, they have relations to the cops because maybe their uncle or aunt is within the force. So it's just like, to see it from that crunched box perspective, I don't know, just, it's not something I would personally buy. It's not something I think I would have, like, if I quizzed everybody, would any of you buy this? Probably not. You know what I mean? Unless you needed some random achievements or something in which you live your best life. But in reality, it's just like, I don't know who this is intended for, and right. I think this could.
I want to come back to that in particular, because we've all kind of danced around the idea of like, who is this for, insinuating that clearly it's not for any of us. Like, we don't have an interest in reliving this kind of an experience, right? But as Blue Magic Grind has said, I want to say a couple of times in the chat, he says this will bring. See, I said all the right things and survived, and these are the choices that these Black people should make, right? Like, that's a possibility if there is sort of a version of the interaction that ends with him driving off safely, right? Like, that's the worry. Mm-hmm. But the video that's on the homepage ends every single option that they show you in the trailer. Like, I don't know if that's all the options, but every option that they show you in the trailer, very reasonable options. Like, oh, let me show you my wallet. Let me show you my registration.
You got a gun.
Yeah, like, let me just say hello to you. All of those options ended in him being shot. So if the point of this, and this is me speculating, because
no matter what you do,
exactly, like if the point of this experience, this interactive experience, is you are a Black man, you have your kid next to you, you're just taking him to school. Most innocent thing in the world, you get pulled over by the cops, and no matter what you say, it doesn't matter. Like, the point is, it doesn't matter what you say as a Black man. The police may kill you. Or even an even better version of this experience would be if it's random. Like, maybe you do get to drive off this time. The next time you play it, everything's exactly the same, and you don't. Like, because that's the real fear, right? Like, that's the thing that scares Black people in America, is that they don't know how it's going to go. Because if they can be super compliant, they may get to go home, and that's fine, right? But they could be super compliant and die. Or they could be
an agenda. Yeah, like, matter.
It's not up to you. That's the problem. You don't have the agency in a situation. That's the whole problem, right? And I don't need to learn that, because I'm a Black man. I've been pulled over by the cops multiple times. But if anybody else who isn't familiar with that plays this and learns that, like, if they get that as the underlying message, that's kind of powerful. And that's the kind of thing that you don't get from watching a movie or from reading a book about it, right? Like, someone can tell that to you and you can be like, all right, well, interesting. But when you experience it yourself, when, like, you learn the futility of the situation because you did it in a VR environment, that hits a little different. And, like, something like that, I think, could be good. And it's and I want to come back to what you guys were saying about the black experience, like them not getting to see themselves represented in more fanciful things and fun things, and I think that's also part of the problem, right? When you see something like this that could be impactful, perhaps, or like hit really close to home, it's like, can we get the other stuff first? Because like, sure, this could be good, but like we're still living this like right now, and like it's hitting too close to home for us. Like, so this probably isn't for us. This is something that would be made for somebody else who really doesn't have to deal with it or have to think about it at all. So like in an educational experience, like Will mentioned, give it to some dudes in an anger management class. Give it to some, some rich kids in a high school or something to finish their social studies, credit or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, give it to the people who probably are disconnected from it in some way or have the privilege of not having to think about it on a regular basis, so that, yes, they get to experience that and feel that, because that's something games can uniquely do. Like, so like in that aspect, I'm not mad at it. Like, I get why it's in poor taste, and I understand fully how it can go absolutely wrong. But there's a good way to do this, and I'd rather see people who make video games in particular try these things that advance the medium forward than to be too scared to like push those buttons. Like, maybe it's too soon, maybe he doesn't hit it right, but at least try, and then someone, like we were saying last week, someone can get it right the next time. They can learn from whatever the mistakes were. Like, that's kind of how I ended up feeling.
Blue Magic stole the idea. What I was gonna say, I was like, use this for police reform. I don't care how political that sounds. Use it for police reform. I don't want to hear it.
So
Sorry,
I was no, you're fine, bro. I was somewhere. I'm basically somewhere between like what you said last time, Will, what you just said, Casey. Because as like I definitely when Will you first said like suffer where there's like an actual speaker who can present it at a convention or something like that. I think that's like a really good idea too, just so that there's actually like more
Context,
more context to it too, before anyone uses it. Because at the same time, if it's like sole mass media, I feel like it's not going to reach the intended audience because the intended audience isn't searching for it. Because if you're already ignorant to it or you don't think it's really a thing, you're not looking for that game. If you see that game, you think, oh, someone's blowing things out of the water. Like, that's not important to you. So it's like, I don't even feel like it can reach its intended audience unless it's actually being done at conventions and stuff like that, or done at educational purposes anyway. I feel like it won't even reach its intended audience.
That's a good point.
But for if it was sold like more mass media, and they tried to, I don't know how, I didn't think of how they would do it per se, but they would definitely have to like, and I don't want to sound like a bad thing because I think it's a good thing, is dress it up. So like games like Sea of Solitude or that Dragon Cancer, like their games with
Sea of Solitude is an awful game. Don't play that game.
Hey! I didn't play it. I'm just saying they tried to dress it up.
They did it, but they did it. Like, that's a bad game to try to dress anything. It's
that
awful.
Sucks. Well, put that to the side. I didn't play that one. I did play that Dragon Cancer though. So games that have like bigger like meaning and depth to them, but they still make it an experience that you actually like play through. Like there's a little bit of like element where you're like, wow, I'm enjoying doing this right now, even though it's a heavy topic that you're dealing with. Is like they would have to somehow do it like that. That's a really hard thing for basically murder to just to make it not like a straight up first person shooter. Like, that's what they have to do it. Like, what we talked about last week, where you'll have to play as both sides. But if you play both sides in this case, you're potentially the cop who just murders for no reason. So it's like, that doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't know what that would benefit to try and put you in the officer's perspective. But
right. So I'm like, I don't know how they would do it, but they would have to do something more than just make it the actual experience. If it was mass media, media wise, in my opinion. But doing it like how you were saying, Casey, especially that way, I like the way you said it, where it's literally just random. Like the whole, like if the point again, they're like, oh yeah, you want to get through 5. The whole game is always like, you got to get through 5 situations without, being say just by, they're like, yeah, be compliant, you'll make it through. But no matter what, by that 5th one, randomly somewhere in there, you will always not make it, or something like that, where it's like, hey, it's random, you never know, you more than likely won't make it.
Right. And that's the lesson being taught, right? Like,
but that's the lesson. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, randomly somewhere in there, as you're trying to reach that goal, the game is going to make you fail. Because it's like, no matter what you do, if you come across the wrong person, that bad cop, and they have an agenda today. I don't know. They argue with their wife last night. Now they're pissed off. They want to take it off on you. I don't know. I don't know what their reasons are. They're dumb. It doesn't matter. They're not logical. They're purely feeling based, on ignorant based. But whatever. The point is, you're not going to make it, and that's the case. If that's how the game is done.
Yeah, I feel like there would be a value
I feel
to
like
an
there's a value
experience
that-
like that for someone. Maybe not me.
For someone. Yeah, not for
Maybe not
for
me,
not for
but
people who
for
already
someone.
know.
Yeah.
But for
You know-
someone. So
You know, it'll make more sense. Keep that all in mind, and then market it. Literally, put it at the end of the day. Where let's take out the whole. I would rearrange it entirely. Oh my god, this is so bad. Make it where it's a white family and black cops. Exact same situation. Nothing changes, but the cop is angry and the cop makes that decision.
I don't
and then When
know.
you, and
I
then,
don't know if that
and then if
works.
someone potentially dies,
I don't know if that works.
That's
well,
not
no,
gonna.
no, I'm saying, right?
Uh-huh.
Keep the same mentality. So you have it. I have a dog bursting in. We have the white family. It doesn't have to be a cop. The cop could be any color. It doesn't make a difference to that one. But make it at the end of the day where if for some potential reason you get to the situation where everything just escalates and gets to a bad boom, you transition and you're like, well, this is what people of color experience. If that's what the educational value ends up being, doesn't matter what color anybody is at the end of the day. The idea is that we're running through it because of the fact that we are different. Then yes, that's the exact same thing. I know it doesn't have the same impact, and it definitely takes away from this controversial portion of
No,
it.
I
But if
think-
you're using it based on educational values, you're not really far off.
But that, I think, like, switching the races is problematic in a sense because it tries to downplay the underlying dynamic, because the problem is it's usually, black people and a white cop that this happens to, and it's because of those like those long-standing institutionalized prejudices that cause them to react the way that they do to black people in the cars. Like, if you say, all right, well, I can be a white family and it could be a black cop and I still got killed. Yes, police brutality is a situation across the board, but it's also fueled by, the white power regime. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
yeah.
Like that's
No, I get
that's
that.
where that energy comes from.
I understand that. I'm
I-
not, but I don't want to take away from the dynamic. I literally just want the role reverse and let it be where, for example, like you mentioned, if this is somebody who needs this for a reform educational thing, or if it's something where somebody had anger issues as a cop or whatever the situation ends up being, and then show this is like, wow, this is how the fuck we're being treated. Why does this make sense? Because of this, that, and the third. I get it. Keep that same dynamic, and then when it ends up showing it, like, it's the end all be all. And keep in mind, our initial reaction is, yes, decline. This doesn't make sense because of the fact that it's taking away from that aspect. But in reality, if that's what it takes for somebody from a different perspective to see, like, oh, wow, I just got brutally murdered for absolutely no reason, that's going to be the difference maker.
I don't know. I find it hard to, because it's like what you're saying is it may be a too much of a disconnect for someone who's white to step into a black person's shoes, right? And then see it from that perspective, right? But if you make their avatar also white, and then they're also being oppressed by, this outside force, the police, no matter what the race is, they can get that same feeling of, all right, well, I don't understand like black oppression, but I get this level of oppression because it's happening to me personally. I don't know if that's the same thing. Because
Yeah.
it's like the scenario is the same. Sure, like a cop would have shot you and you didn't do anything wrong, but the reason why, I think, would be lost. Because in most cases, like, you're not, like, sure, white people have been shot by police, but usually not at this rate and not for the same underlying reason. Not because the cop feared for their life under no reasonable circumstances. Like, just because they saw they were black, they were immediately scared for their life, and so they were on a heightened whatever, right? Like that's all lost if you just flip the races all willy-nilly.
True. You know what? I think my perspective was, I'm still under, like, I still think that's more powerful from what you were saying. It's just more so because of the fact that, unfortunately, no matter how you twist it to somebody, there's always going to be that one sick person
Yep.
that are never going to get it.
Right, yeah.
And they're never going to understand it. And I
They'll
don't think
just
generalizing
slam the headset
it
off, but like, this ain't real. This would never happen.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. I don't mean to generalize it in the regard where it takes away from it. It's just more so like hoping in the bigger picture that somebody would actually see the actual educational purpose of it.
Right,
And
yeah.
whether that's,
It's from
I guess
just-
that's going to be based on
Just
the individual.
figuring out how you would do the experience to make it work the way
Mhm,
it's intended.
exactly.
And it's going to be
That was the
tricky. Like, there's probably not going to be a one size fits all, solution to it. But if it at least hits some people, like if this is done well and it can get that across to at least some of the population who maybe wouldn't have understood it before, I think that's valuable.
Yeah. Well, first we got to fix the arm. That's the first thing.
Right. Get those designers back in the lab, work on that cop's arm.
They also remember that they did say it was an autobiographical like story.
Approach.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
who is this? Like, obviously that person didn't potentially, I don't know. I'm assuming they made it. I hope they didn't make a game based off somebody who actually died. I mean, even if the family said it's okay, it just feels morbid. I don't know. Like, it just feels a little morbid. Make it fictional people, change the names. The story can be maybe around the experience they may have had, but just don't make it too close to home. That feels weird to me. I want to play
Right.
somebody
I would agree with
actually
that.
died.
Yeah.
But maybe hopefully, I'm assuming that the people that maybe it's based off are alive. I'm hoping that they are well. Maybe I don't know, because this feels weird to base it off someone if they didn't die. I like, in my mind is like, if they didn't actually, if it didn't happen like that,
Like,
and
don't,
you
then
can
don't call
die
it
in the game.
autobiographical in a
Yeah,
sense.
like just like say it's based off true story, like a Hollywood version of stuff, like based on a true story where like 10% of it's based off a
right.
true
Yeah.
story.
I get what
Like,
you mean. Like, autobiographical does sound like, all right, well, if this ends in death, then
Most of the time.
did a
But then,
ghost
like,
make
did
this game?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I would like it if they're alive, they put like maybe a clip in the beginning of the game before you start playing, or after you finish playing, of the actual people who experience it. Maybe they can talk about like a quick little bit, like, hey, what you just played was what happened with me and my son back on this date, and they just talk about for a little bit, because it definitely feels like if it's intent to be educational, then you might as well go all out with it and include that little snippet in the beginning or the end from the people who actually went through it, maybe, and have that attached to it. That's why I do still think best case scenario is, like Will said, this is at conventions or at schools. There's a speaker. They got to show that video outside of the game or put it in the game, what have you, whatever the case may be. But I do think it could be good as long as they put the care behind it and fix that arm. Because my God, the lights, the red light was just engulfing so much in the buildings. I'm like, light doesn't work like that.
I feel like at one point his arm was all twisted. I was like, oh, okay, so he's just playing Twister off the rip. And then he was like, oh, he got a gun. And I'm like, where'd he come from? Where'd he come from?
So his arm was already like in position to like try to grab a gun, but it was further back. And it's like,
yeah, it was scratching his back. Different.
Scratching his back. Yeah, man.
Here's what they need to do. Just take this game, scrap it. Let's start again. Let's start a game where we can buy an RTX graphics card without any issue. No,
Okay.
just me.
Oh, hold on.
Just
Wait.
me.
It's an
I
important
like that
experience
game.
that most people don't get to have.
And then there's an option to do the KC option where you got to contact somebody else and pay a little RP, but still get your baby's day.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I like that.
Okay. So it's a nice way to
We should
wrap
make
up
that game,
this,
gentlemen.
this conversation.
Let's make that game, gentlemen.
Any parting words about this in particular? Or you guys cool to wrap up? We went over time a little bit, but I think it was fine. No?
Racism bad, and cops in general do need further, more extensive training. There you go.
What's the three? Racism bad. Kids are stupid according to Ash.
Kids are dumb.
Kids are dumb. Right. And yeah, I stop lying. Put your truth out there. Stop the
Right.
Always
Stop capping.
lying. Why you always lying?
So Ash Redux, where can people find you and your content on the internet? Where can they tune in?
People can find me on Twitch and Twitter primarily at Ash Redux, as Casey put above my head right here. Make sure you come check me out. I'll be what's today? Today's Sunday.
Yes, today's
Yes, I will be streaming. I will be streaming tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be playing with some more of that Yakuza 0. Finally came back to the game after probably getting like halfway through, literally years ago, and just never finishing. Even though I really like the game, and I think I'm a big fan of the series, even though I've only played one game. Still, point is, Lampy, stop it. Stop banning me. Point is, come check me out at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be playing Yakuza 0. There's kidnappings. There's blind women being abducted. There's people fighting to get one plot of land. And whoever gets it, yes, it's literally like an acre of land, but whoever gets that acre of land will basically be next in line to be head of the major Yakuza clan head, because they'll have more control of most of the city. Blah 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 blah. It's a good time. The Yakuza games are outrageously funny and ridiculous, but they're great. So just come through if you like ridiculousness to like 11. It's like Saints Row, but a little more grounded and Japanese.
That's what I thought you were going to say. Saints Row, but more Japanese.
I feel a little more grounded because, I'm not like in a Matrix version, alternate reality fighting aliens and stuff. So, I mean, it's a little more grounded.
But, I mean, who isn't?
Is that
Jesse,
not what we're doing right now?
Oh, excuse me. Let me go fight.
Jesse, how about you? Where can people find you and your content?
You can always see new stuff wherever I post. Of Twitter, RexConJesse. I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/RexConJesse. Usually I stream during the day, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time. I will be hanging out in the woods with my partner this week. So I won't be doing that. I might be back by Thursday night to play some Phasmophobia.
Nice.
Yeah, because I want to watch, please. I didn't see it this time, so I want to be there.
That's the day we get back. So if we get back in time, I'm still going to stream because I like playing that game a lot.
Good stuff.
And then you can look at rexconjesse.itch.io for all my tabletop RPG stuff. And Escapist, because I did Behind Schedule, Alone in the Dark in there, and then 2 other 3-minute reviews this week.
Nice.
Awesome. You're on a roll right now.
I know.
How about you, Will? Where can people find you and your work on the internet? What are you plugging?
Nowhere. I'm leaving. I hate it. I hate it here, guys. No.
Internet dumb like kids.
Like kids. I think I'm at Will C Blogs everywhere. Yes, you can check me out. I randomly was streaming Rocket League on YouTube, in which you should totally pop in. I've had so many random people just join in and had some fun time. So if you want to just laugh, there will be no screen. It's just me yelling at everybody, but you're more than welcome to join if you just want to get in part of the crazy hecticness.
I do. That sounds fun.
It is very, very much fun. It's funny because now I bought Yakuza 0 when it was like $5 on PlayStation 4. So now I'm like, maybe I'm finna stream that. I don't know.
It's fun.
I know. I was gonna do Twitch, but for no, you guys don't follow me on Twitch. I don't. I was tell you to follow me on Twitch.tv.
I don't. How do?
It's twitch.tv/Will C Blogs. It is very easy.
Is it?
I don't utilize it.
Yeah, this is the first time you ever plugged your Twitch. So how you expected me to?
I might have plugged it before. I didn't use it that much. It's just so, Twitch is such an overbearing platform.
Yeah, there's a lot happening on Twitch.
You know what I mean? And you got to be popular. I don't have like all the screens and stuff like that. I need to work on my gaming PC before I start going further into that because I want graphics and overlay. I want to be like my bald friend Ash and just be all sexy like on the camera. It's crazy.
I got a 5900X coming my way next week.
Oh my! I saw you tweet that and I was like, this son of a biscuit. All right, well, wait till I get me one. Then you're gonna be like, yeah. But no, I will recommend Twitch or YouTube. Look up Will C Blogs and follow me. I'll probably stick more with YouTube for now, just because I have more followers there. But who knows? Maybe I'll switch off here and there. And then I plug my podcast where I've been doing weird hybrid episodes. Where one episode I'll probably have someone I'm talking to, and the other one I'm really doing like a 10-minute talk on the news. I've had fun producing those, so I definitely recommend popping in for that. Because I've been getting nothing but love from the podcast section of it. So thank you so much, guys. Keep following on there.
Nice.
And I think I'm doing escapist stuff. I wrote a review, but no one listens to me. Oh, I have a good game, okay, guys? See me in the escapist, all right? And then, yeah, maybe next time I'll be on one of your game night streams. Every time you guys ask me, I'm always traveling somewhere. I'm clearly not home now. So hopefully we'll line up something soon.
Yeah.
And that's that.
We'll have to get you in soon. As for me, you can find me at CityGears9 on my Twitch and my Twitter. Yesterday, I streamed with my fiance. We played It Takes Two. It was fun. Next Saturday, we might continue that with Starboy. So it'll be the 3 of us again because he'll be around. And it's hard to play video games with the only other adult in the house and have your kid just run around all wild. So
yes. Why I can't stream it. Yes.
Right. Yeah, it's tough to do that, right? But other than that, tune in to the Open Party channel at 2:30 p.m. Eastern today for Super Smash Sunday. I don't know who's going to be co-hosting with me. It might be a solo stream, but that always means that I bring out the big guns, and you're going to have to fight hard to get past me in most cases.
Yo, English is hard. There were so many pauses in there. Oh my god.
Look, I talk a lot, and sometimes you just get tired of talking. But it doesn't mean you can stop talking, does it? No, you have to keep on
Not
talking.
me. Screw Jersey. Wherever Ash is from, I support it. Ash, where you from?
Ash from Jersey. Now, say something.
Never mind. Never mind. Jersey
No,
trash. Double down on the trash.
I'm from Ohio.
Ohio boy.
Ohio's
Wait,
closer to
yeah.
Jersey than it is from New York.
Isn't Jesse from like Virginia?
Currently in there, but I'm actually from Ohio too.
Oh, you're from Ohio? All right. Well, I drove through Virginia and it was beautiful. Can't say that about Jersey.
I drove through Virginia, got pulled over by the police.
Oh, damn. That just went full circle. I gotta go.
All right, that's going to do it for the Signal Show episode 24. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be back next week. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to everybody who's here as my co-host. Really appreciate you guys. See you later. Peace. Bye. Love you.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.
Deuces.